Hello, everyone. My name is Reagan Sanford, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about obesity in the United States of America. Central idea is going to be how obesity is affecting thousands of people in our world today. Um, I know people have seen it, kind of walking out in public. You don't obviously always, mean to think about it, but sometimes you'll see someone, you'll be like, man, that person, they're looking a little obese or they're looking a little overweight. And honestly, that's something that we're seeing a lot more of. As you can kind of see when you're out and about, you see a lot of people that are a little more heavy on the heavier side, and that's really something that's starting to become a big deal in the United States, is people being overweight and obese. And honestly, and that's something that with here we'll kind of go over some reasons why, how it affects people and stuff that maybe we can do to fix it. Obesity is something that's been affecting this country for years, and it really doesn't show any sign of decreasing. And it honestly does need a lot of attention. It's something that's growing rapidly and not a lot's getting done about it. So in a society where everyone is completely different, and sometimes in the case where most people think obesity has different variables that come into play, it ranges from different genes that can affect people negatively or just changing bad habits on their own. People eat for several different reasons. So there's a ton of different reasons on why obesity or overweight can affect somebody. And like I said, it's something that we need to try as a nation to get under control. Now that we're familiar with what we will be going over, let's jump right into the first topic, which will be talking about how genes play a role in obesity. Obesity is something that can stem down from your early generations, but sometimes it's just something that happens and it's hard to change on our own. Genetic changes in the human body occur very slowly, so it's not something that can be responsible for obesity. So genes aren't going to be the reason that maybe someone's obese, but it is something that can induce it. You might have a gene. I guess I don't know much about genes, but they are shown that there are different variants of genes that can maybe make someone feel more hungry. They always feel like they're hungry. So there are things that can maybe induce it, but that is not going to be the underlying reason why that person is obese or something like that. This is coming from overweight and obesity by the CDC. So this is probably after numerous testing and stuff like that, and they've come up with this. And they even said that it's very rare for obesity to run within families. Single gene line is caused from interactions with multiple genes and changes in our environment. Changes in our environment, eating habits and physical activity. We're going to get in that in a little bit, but that obviously that's like the biggest role when it comes to being overweight or obese is what you eat, and then how you try to stay active. Are you going on walks, runs, going to the gym? If you have a dog, you take your dog on walks. That's a good way just to get moving, get those calories moving or get those calories burned. Now going from genes and how they can possibly play a role in obesity, we will now talk about these bad eating habits and how they affect people negatively. So obesity can negatively impact more than just one person's life. It's something that's going to impact your life, and it's something that's going to always affect probably more than yours, and you might not even know it's going to affect other people around you. You've got a family member who's obese, and there's different things they have to do to accommodate themselves, and you're with them, but it just kind of affects you because you're there. And I know some people feel embarrassed about it, and then just some people it just affects them because they got to do other stuff to help them feel comfortable in certain situations. So it maybe doesn't affect you negatively, but it does affect the other person. They just don't always know it. Obesity is the one risk factor that has increased dramatically over 25 years. And that 1 in 3 Americans are overweight and 1 in 5 are obese. And this is coming from Strum-Rowland on the effects of obesity in the United States. When it comes to determining if you're obese or not, obviously you can take your BMI. If you don't know what that is, that's body mass index. But the one drawback to finding your BMI is that it will not always distinguish the difference between fat and lean body mass. So you got someone who goes to the gym, works out a lot, they're going to have a lot of lean body mass, and that's going to weigh, probably weighs more than fat. So it's going to make you seem overweight, even though you could be pretty thin and not overweight, but you could still be pushing the 200 but still pretty lean. It's going to tell you that you're overweight, and you're just, some people, they might be like, dang, I'm overweight, and then they're going to just try to lose weight. Sometimes that can impact you negatively, but if you have a higher BMI, that's risk for heart diseases. So if you are really overweight, you will have heart issues, you know, your heart's gonna be working a lot harder than it needs to. And even if you aren't overweight, but you're just someone who lifts a lot and they're kind of bulkier, your heart still has to work a lot harder. So having a higher BMI can actually impact you in both ways. So moving on from seeing how it can impact us and people around us, we're going to talk about ways that we can fix obesity. So we have a lot of people out there researching, trying to find the most promising ways. You know, there's always like the pills and all these other kind of things that people say you can do. But honestly, what it kind of comes down to is we need to eliminate all the cheap processed foods. See, like in my house right now, I got some cheese at Grooves. Very good, very cheap to find, but always not the best thing to have in our households. You know, we've got produce and all these other things that we should be having, but we got this. Very cheap. Produce is always, you know, somewhat kind of expensive. So we need to eliminate those kind of foods, and then we need to get in the gym. Like I said, go to the gym. You don't have to lift weights if you're not the best, but lifting weights, doing cardio, running, walking, going out with the dog, going on a walk with the wife or husband, the kids, you know, whatever you can do. Just anything like that can really help decrease any of this kind of stuff. In closing, it can be very tough and it's hard to address, but it is something that can affect anyone and it affects others that are around them. I hope everyone has a good understanding on how it has affected people and how to avoid it. There is so much to understand when it comes to obesity and genetics when it comes to obesity, how it negatively impacts your life, and how obesity can be decreased and prevented. So I hope everyone gains some good knowledge and when it comes to obesity, and that when they see or know someone who is having a tough time overweight, that you can challenge yourself and hopefully challenge them to, you know, make a lifestyle change for the better. So that's all I have. Thank you for listening.